Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It is a great pleasure to welcome back to the event Chris Saraceno, who is the Vice President and Partner at the Kelly Automotive Group and the best-selling author of The Theory of Five. Chris, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
My pleasure and always an honor to be on the show.
Chris, I tell you, when you appeared the last couple times at the event, it was during the beginning of this era, okay, that's been going on for the last 2 years, and you took the event by storm, and you talked about a lot of things early that have now really resonated, I think, with the automotive community in terms of culture. And I want to congratulate you on the success that you're having at Kelly Automotive Group and with the book as well.
Well, thank you very much. Sure.
So, let's kind of dive right into it if it's okay. We got a lot of folks watching today who are fellow dealers and managers. And, what's the secret sauce, Chris? What's the secret to your success there at Kelly Automotive Group?
Well, you and I talked about this before. I mean, every dealership has product, and all the products today are so good in comparison to 10, 20, 30 years ago when we entered this industry. It really comes down to people. People are absolutely our most precious commodity because people also create the culture that we have, and the leaders we have will create that culture. So I would say there's nothing more important than making sure we have the right people, and we recruit, hire, train, and we bring them into our culture.
And that's really been, that's really been Chris Saraceno, because there's nobody who does that better than you. So kind of take us through it. I know you've got a very unique and special onboarding process. What can you share with the audience today?
Well, I mean, we really, our human resources, we have put a lot of time and effort into making sure that we have a team of people that when you're recruiting, getting back to people today quickly and often are so important. So we work with a combination of a recruiting company, and then our internal HR department is they call, they text, they email the schedule thing. As soon as we see somebody that is good, we know there's specific days they can schedule right away. And they would say, okay, you're going to go to our Nissan store Tuesday, anytime between 10 and 4. And then we also have nighttime where they could go from 6 to 8 to contact. So we know there's certain days that we could schedule people to come in right away because urgency with talent is crucial to get them in quickly. And in today's world, you have so many people applying to different positions and different dealerships and different companies.
And, I can take stock because I remember when I first started off selling cars, the Ford dealership where I worked for didn't order my business cards. It took like 6 months. I guess they wanted to be sure I was going to stick. I didn't have a name tag. I didn't have a lot of basics. And you take care to provide those things before the team member even starts. If you would, talk about that.
Well, what happened was we really looked at this and sometimes you have the accounting team, which their job is to make sure they're counting the money. They would wait, like you said, years ago, they would wait 90 days. They would wait for somebody to see if they made it. And we said, for the amount of money that we're spending to make people feel special, when they show up to our dealership and they have their name tag and they have their business cards and they are set up in the system already and they have their email address and we have clothing for them already and we have everything ready for them on day one. And then we tour them around the facility, and we have a general manager or HR will tour them around the whole facility, introduce them to somebody. We want that person going home at night and saying, no different than if they were with a Fortune 500 company. Wow, my job today when I started, the general manager toured me around, introduced me to everybody. I have my name tag, I have my business cards, I have my email addresses, they have me set up for training already. I already have my clothing to wear, and I'm all set up. And I think we were tripping over dollars to pick up pennies. And we realized that if our culture is to be the best of the best, what do the best companies do outside of the auto industry? And we looked at it and said, okay, we have to duplicate that. So we're always challenging ourselves. In fact, I had a gentleman that is on this show often. He's the one that challenged me a few years ago and said, hey, Chris, here's what we went to, Ed Roberts. We ended up going to this at our store that I looked back and said, you know what? I think we're we're letting the accounting department, which is great. We love our accountants, but we're letting them decide when we're going to get a business card for somebody and make people feel special on day one.
I saw that you visited with Ed in St. Augustine, and you're right. I think Ed is a very special person and a special leader. And, look what he's done there in St. Augustine, with those franchises and, with the focus on fixed ops and now having grown his career from fixed ops to running the whole organization.
Yes, absolutely. And that's something that I think is so wonderful about our industry. Most every dealer you talk to, if you want to visit them and they're outside of our market, they welcome you to come in. If they're doing something special that really stands out, pretty much every dealer I've ever gone to and made a phone call to and said, "Can I visit your store?" We're very welcoming. Overboard welcoming and showing what they're doing at the store. So I would recommend that to other dealers that are out there, and other folks that are going to be on this show and watch this, to say, you know what, if you find somebody that you think is doing a great job, make a phone call. What's the worst they could say is no? But I would bet you that most of them are going to say yes, and they would be honored to share with some of the things that they're doing at their dealerships.
You're right. In fact, Ed called upon me because he was in California recently and wanted to make a visit to see Longo Toyota on short notice. And I said, "Ed, when do you think you'll be there? What day? What would be a good time?" He says, "I'll be there in about 25 minutes." And so I made the phone call over there. And although Greg Penske and Doug Iro weren't there that afternoon, they opened the door and made sure that he had the red carpet treatment and got the tour, and saw a lot of similarities to his organization. Speaking of which, you all share the importance that you mentioned of culture. You mentioned the onboarding process. What other areas do you excel at that you'd like to share today?
Well, I wrote down some areas. I always like to take a little notes to make sure I'm prepared for our presentation, because there's sometimes you get off and you go, boy, I missed that. I should have said that and shared this with it. But I would tell you, one of the things I think we do well is Greg Kelly and I, every single team member that joins our company, we do a 4-hour orientation. One of us to teach it. We don't have anyone else teach it, no manager. We've been challenged by our other managers saying, why after 25 years are the two of you still teaching this? And we said, selfishly, it gives us an opportunity to spend 4 hours with every single new team member and to share the history and the culture of our company and why we do specific things. And we have not given that up, although we have people that will challenge us and say, hey, should we teach this now? And we're like, we get an opportunity to share the why behind what we do.
And I imagine that years from now, people will look back and say, you know what? I got taught and introduced to the organization personally, by Chris Saraceno. They're going to remember that.
Well, some of the items we talk about during that orientation, I wrote down, and we go through the history of the company, because no one's going to know the history better than we would. We share the mission and values, which we call our shared vision, and why we created that and the importance behind it. We walk through what we call the human computer. The questions you ask yourself on a daily basis, consciously or subconsciously, are going to determine how you think. And we talk about the importance of asking yourself the right questions. We do something called the 9 dots, which is really talking about getting outside your comfort zone. So our orientation is more about culture. We talk about the ghost, which is not allowing people to give you negative thoughts. And when you come in, if there's people telling you certain things that are going on, not to allow that, and people will treat you the way you allow them to treat you. We walk through the theory of 5, and we believe that's important because our point of view is that we want the team members, we would love everybody to retire with us. Most importantly, we want them to have a happy and prosperous life. And being that they end their career with us or not, or start their own business, we believe our job is to share with them key philosophies of success and prosperity, and to have the right mindset when they're there. So it's very different than what they're expecting. When they come in and do the orientation, they're expecting everything to be about Kelly. It's maybe 10 to 15% about Kelly. And really the rest of it's about life and how to have a great life and live a happy and prosperous life.
And Chris, you invest in your people, you invest in their training, not just on the sales and leadership side, but I've noticed you do that on the service side as well, with your service advisors as an example.
Oh yeah. We are big believers that, if we say we want to be the best of the best, we would be hypocritical not to invest in them. And we have worked with an automotive company that does service training with advisors. For years, we've had the same company, and we have the same two people come in. It's a mother and a son team, and they are just wonderful. And their values match our values, and I believe they believe they're actually part of the Kelly Automotive Group. I mean, they look at it as if someone's not doing things the right way, they take it as if this is part of our company, and you want I call them vendor partners to feel that way, because they really are partners in helping you grow. And then lately we've worked with the Romes, and wow, they dig into the numbers and they challenge us on a monthly basis, and they talk with us and they share different things. And our numbers, that's with the service directors, because we want them to understand the numbers and how everything's going on will affect the impact of us growing long term. So we're always investing, and we do that for sales. Right now, we have every one of our new managers. If you're new to management, everybody thinks just because you were in the auto industry and you did a good job, you should be a leader. So we invest in outside training for leadership training, and it's not automotive specific. It's leadership training in general, and we have them come in, and it's a 10-week course where they spend 2 hours, going through training, and it's other people from other industries that are also part of that training. Wow.
And one of the things I know that we wanted to mention real quick is on the used car side, because used cars have never been I don't ever recall seeing a time like this, Chris, in our industry. And there's been a lot of focus at the Fixed Ops Roundtable on used vehicles and merchandising and reconditioning. Talk to us a little bit about some of the unique things that you do on that side as well.
Well, we have always done a good job with used cars. We've been anywhere from, most car dealer groups would like to be 1-to-1 for every new car sold. We're typically 1.5, used vehicles for every new vehicle that we sell. 20 some years ago, before the Car Maxes came out, we had something called Kelly Risk Free. We did a 3-day money back guarantee. We did the 30-day exchange. We did a detailed 150-point inspection that has detailed notes that we share with every customer. We share a history with every customer. I mean, we really go into detail of it, and we do something called live market pricing, which we use through vAuto, and we sit with the customer and we show them, here's how we arrived at the price. Not that we just picked that. We don't do it based on cost up. Listen, if we paid too much, the customer's not going to pay just because we overpaid or we made a mistake on it. They're going to pay market value, and we believe that we have the best price value. We may not be the lowest price because there may be another vehicle in the marketplace that has higher miles, had 2 or 3 accidents, but we justify every price that we have. And then we have pricing teams every week where we adjust it. But I would tell you that, we have been poised for this. We have been buying cars out of the service department for years. And we, visited a store many years ago. Brian Benstock, allowed us to come to his store and spend some time. And then we sort of took the culture that he was doing there and watched it. And we took it to every one of our stores that we had as far as buying and selling cars from service. So I would tell you, when it comes to pre-owned vehicles, one of the things we say we should have done years ago, maybe, before the Car Maxes, we should maybe brand it risk free and took it all around the country. But we really do a good job making sure that customers are taken care of, and we share with all the technicians and everybody in our department why it's important to get the car from the day we get it on the lot with photos and reconditioned within 72 hours. If it's not reconditioned within 72 hours, we want to know why. And we personally, myself or Greg Kelly or Tim Kelly, we will personally walk the lot of all the cars and open every door of every used car to make sure. And the question we ask is, if you were going to sell this to your best friend or relative or a family member, what would you say you want fixed on this car? Well, then fix it. Because if you're saying that this would be fixed right now, let's make sure it's fixed beforehand. So we are very involved in used cars, and we have a passion for used cars.
Everyone, we're talking today to Chris Saraceno, who is the vice president and partner at Kelly Automotive Group and the best-selling author of The Theory of Five. Chris is a huge believer and practitioner in a continuous improvement process, not just at the dealership, but in his life as well. Chris, talk to us a little bit about things you do, such as your manager meeting, the daily agenda, and some of the focus that they've got there.
Well, we believe the key to every dealership is how you set things up first thing in the morning. So first thing in the morning, we make sure, of course, we have a forecast every month, and we do red, yellow, green based on, and we break it down in almost every single category where you should be. So on a daily basis, the first thing every morning, we look at it and say, where do we stand in comparison to forecast? If we're yellow or red, we want to know, what are we going to do next? Is there just some of the invoices that have not been handed in, or are we really behind? What's our step? What are we going to do? We look through contracts in transit. We look through so many different areas. But before we start every meeting, even before we go through the recruiting, we have every one of our leaders stand up and spend 5 minutes teaching, because we believe that when you teach, you internalize, and it has to be something that's motivational, inspirational, something that a leader would do, because we want them to be uncomfortable standing up. We want them to say, boy, when I'm teaching this, if I don't live it, I would be hypocritical doing this. So we believe that if they have to constantly teach, that they start internalizing what they're talking about every day when they're doing this. And this is Monday through Friday that we would have these meetings, that we go through every aspect. We go through every used car, that's going through the shop. If it's over 72 hours, why? Is it because of a part? In today's world, there are parts that sometimes you have to find. But we want to keep the importance on getting things done on a consistent basis. And I know when we just bought the Toyota Hyundai store about 16 months ago, the GM was like, Chris, we thought you were crazy when we had to do this, because when we first started it, it took like an hour and 20 minutes. Well, once they got used to it, it was done like in 35 minutes. They got used to it because they had all the answers right away when they came in. And he goes, what used to take me all day long to get done, and I probably didn't get 20 to 30% of it done because I just got busy, I now have done every single day. We start the meetings at 8:30. He said, by 9:05, I have all the things I wanted to look at already completed and done.
Wow.
And then you can focus on the people and the customers.
I think it's a great example also of how you share your vision with the team. You've taken the time to actually write down a mission statement for the organization. And Chris, you've set out with some values, the Kelly values, the commitment to excellence, the customer enthusiasm. And you know what? A lot of times we take those things for granted, but you know what? The customer can tell the difference. And, you've really spelled it out for your team.
Well, I would tell you what I personally like about it, and I say this to the leaders when we talk to them, is that it never has to be me versus you on when someone does something. It could be the two of us sort of looking at our mission and saying, okay, this is what our mission is. This is what our values are. Is what we just did, is it in alignment with the mission of customer enthusiasm? If not, what should we do? And what it does is it brings two people from being here, if they're arguing about something, and all of a sudden what happens is now I'm trying to get on the camera the right way, now they're this way, because they realize that whatever decision we make has to be very much in alignment with the shared vision of the company. So I love it from that aspect, because it never has to be my opinion versus your opinion. It's what is in alignment with the vision of the company, what we say we're all about. We could use that as a guidepost.
And you shared with me 3 key philosophies or statements that you repeat, Chris, over and over with your leadership team. Would you mind sharing with us what they are?
Well, the one is, I always say, catch people doing something right, because we're all like little children. And for those of you out there that have children or grandchildren, when you have that, 5-year-old or 4-year-old little boy or girl, and they come running up and go, and then we clap and make a big deal out of it. They just do it over and over and over again. Well, I sort of believe that I don't care if you're 40 or 50 or whatever age you are, we still have the same emotions. We're still like a bunch of big kids that like to be recognized. And what gets recognized and rewarded gets repeated. So sometimes we're always looking to catch people doing something wrong, but when you catch people doing something right and you recognize it, they do it over and over and over again, which helps build a culture. I also, this is another statement we say, people don't care how much you know, because we have some very bright people in this business until they know how much you care. And I know that's not a statement we made up, but I know it's something that was in history that was said, and it's so true. Once they know you care about them, and once they understand the why, they internalize it much more. And the next one is what I just said, is always explain the why. This is why we're doing this. This is what's in it for you right now. Because sometimes if we just say, this is how we do it, they leave and they're like, it doesn't make sense. But if they understand the why and they understand the long-term benefits to them of doing what we're doing and why we do it, then they internalize it more and they're bought into it.
Chris, finally, I know that the things that you're speaking about right now at the organization are things that you live in your personal life. I follow you on social media. You have a beautiful family, children, grandchildren, and you share that as well. And yeah, and you took the time, by the way, to write a lot of this down in the Theory of Five and to share that with not just other dealers, but people in general in life. Talk to us about what's next for you, Chris. What do you see out on the horizon, and what's next overall?
Well, I would say, I have a lot of my friends in the industry. They're very concerned about some of the OEMs right now talking about going direct, to the consumer. I'm a believer that if we're the best at what we do and we have a great culture and we bring people in and we have great people and, the manufacturer is going to have the product and we have nice facilities that customers want to come to, that's what's going to dictate what's going to happen. The manufacturer is going to do what's best long term. And if they look at it and say, hey, the best dealers, this dealer makes us look good and they want to come back, they're going to continue to go with us. And that's just my belief. I believe that if we have enthusiastic customers, enthusiastic team members, we keep our facilities nice and clean, and we make it a wonderful experience, they're going to still come back. It's no different than people going to restaurants. People can still order almost anything and have delivered to their home, any type of food. Why do they still go to that restaurant? For the experience. We have to really focus on the experience as a group and get rid of the naysayers that are saying, hey, we're going to go direct to consumer. The Tesla model, that's to me is an anomaly. That's the top 1%. Those are the people that, want to, that they want to get involved in. They want to be the early intenders of doing something special. But once they have to work a deal and once they have to get people that can't get approved, at our Mitsubishi store, last week, we spent a week on one person just getting them approved. Imagine if you tried that direct to consumer with everybody around the United States, how challenging that would be. So again, my bottom line is just be the best we could be as a group of dealers. We have to be the best we could be, and we're going to be around a long time.
Chris, what a great message. Thank you so much. On behalf of the fixed ops community, we're very privileged to have you today. And obviously, we want to welcome you back because, you're the real deal. And Chris Saraceno, everybody, the vice president and partner at the Kelly Automotive Group and best-selling author of The Theory of Five. Chris, thank you on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you again. It's my honor.